So how do we put that into issues of public policy? Well, Michael did meet the senators, and that's great. I got to take some of the stuff I said about them back. The only thing I hate more than the senators is the hockey team, or the senators as politicians. My experience with politicians is that politicians are really bad with technical issues. They run from them because we're extreme generalists. I don't even get to read things anymore. I just read the yellow line where I sign my name. We don't have time. And what we're good at is, to quote my very good friend Bill Patry, who's a great lawyer on this, is moral panic. If something's really wrong, politicians have to stand up. That's why you see the crime agenda is always big. Politicians never go out of style with the crime agenda because there's a moral issue that has to be fought. So if there's a problem, we're good at shutting it down. But we're not really good at envisioning where we need to be. And that's a big problem. And you see that in the copyright issues. You see that in a lot of our digital issues. Politicians are really wary of, they're afraid of the issue. But if it's an issue of locking it down, if it's an issue of penalties, we can be sold on that. So how do we change the nature of the discussion to get it back to the issue of the public interest? And that's what we're here to do. Well, number one, it's what you're doing. An active public and an active citizenry puts pressure on politicians. You won't believe how many politicians come up to me and say, what is this thing called net neutrality? They're spooked by it, and that's good. Then what you have to do is you have to unspook them so it's not so terrible. The issue, they'll say, is that, you know, you can't interfere with business. The businesses has a right to do, you know, to make money. And we agree. In our system, we have a system that's set up that the telecoms make money just like they make money in the broadcast industry. But we say in broadcast, there's a public interest. The airwaves are public. And for all the money they're allowed to make, they have to meet certain small requirements. Politicians get that. So in terms of the public interest with the internet, is that we have to make sure that the giant vertically integrated mega corporations who are entertainment industries in their own right are not using the one aspect of their service, which are the ISPs, to unfairly throttle competition, to unfairly favor their own services as to their competitors. And they'll tell you, we would never do that. Well, then they wouldn't be capitalists if they would never do that, because their fundamental job is to make money for their shareholders. And it would be insane for them not to do that if they had the opportunity. So why would we expect that they would do something in the public interest? It's not that they're bad, it's that they have to have rules. So we start with simple rules. I introduced Bill C-398, an act to amend the Telecommunications Act. If you read it, it won't look all that impressive. It's just a very short little bill. It just adds to Section 36, clarifying language that says they cannot degrade content. They cannot prioritize or favor one set of content over the other. The telecoms will say it's in the Act already, in a vague sort of way, as Michael said. But if it's already in the Act, then they shouldn't mind it being clarified. And that's where the rub is. I was reading this IT magazine. I was writing about my bill where the NDP or something like we're claiming and making, we're trying to force this new net neutrality bill. You know, when you're the fourth party in a private member's bill, it's amazing how much, you know, you can be picking on these telecoms. And they said that, you know, the NDP had claimed that these telecommunication companies were vertically integrated giants with all kinds of entertainment subsidiaries, but we provided no evidence. Well, I didn't think I needed to provide any evidence to one of Canada's largest IT magazines. I think it would be fairly bloody obvious what's happening here. You know, when you get your sales to buy onto an internet service, they say, you know, come for our video on demand service. More downloads faster than ever. They're offering you a service at a price, and that's perfectly A-OK. But the internet, in the future development of the internet, is based and has to remain based on the fact that you, as a consumer, but also you as a citizen, get to decide what content has priority, not them. That's the principle that we have to maintain. It's a simple principle. It can be simply enacted into law, and it just sets a level playing field so that we have third-party competition, and that if you want to watch YouTube rather than their video on demand service, that you're going to get it at the same speed that their video on demand services. These are simple principles. Now, just to move to the next step in terms of where we go as public policy, a private member's bill will not bring about a vision of net neutrality. It's just a tool. It's a tool so that when you call your politician in your riding or wherever you are, you say, where do you stand on the issue of net neutrality? He says, I've never heard of net neutrality. Well, there's a bill. It's a simple bill. Where do you stand on that? That starts to frame the discussion, because then their staff starts to look at it. But there's a bigger issue here, and this is where we really need to move the political discussion. We need to have it in a framework that's not just a one-off. And this has been the problem with the CRTC. With the new media studies, and they look at this and they look at that from the telecoms, and they're looking at the CAPE decision right now. We can't have one-offs. We need a larger holistic plan. Conrad von Finkenstein, we don't often agree, him and I, but he did say we needed a national digital strategy. We do not have one. We need it in terms of where we're going with broadband, because as Michael's pointed out, we're falling behind. We need it in terms of the issue of net neutrality and ensuring that what we've started to build continues to grow and continues to create the innovation agenda. We need it in terms of copyright, so that we're moving towards progressive copyright, not regressive copyright. The New Democratic Party are the only party, I'm saying it just plain out, with a digital affairs critic. That's my position in the party. We believe that every party should have a digital affairs spokesperson, so they are looking at this. The issue of copyright is tied into access, because you have to find a way to monetize the incredible works that are being put on the internet by artists. They have a right to get paid, end of story. But you have a right to access as well. So, you know, the models we see, again, the moral panic models is, we got to arrest them, we got to shut their ISPs off. I had a politician say one day at a meeting, he says, I don't know anything about this iPod stuff, but I know kids are out there just ripping off private property, and we've got to stop them. And it sounded like we were like mugging little old ladies at the bus stop for their digital purses. It's like, no, we're talking about an innovation agenda, so just cool the language and say, how do we monetize the music that's being traded? How do we get people, if they want to watch their TV show on BitTorrent, how do we make sure that the people who created it get paid? How do we give you access? This is part of a much larger vision that needs to happen, and Canada is falling behind because there's a lack of political will. So what you guys are doing tonight is helping in a big way. You're putting this on the map. This is one of a number of issues that are all interconnected. And as politicians learn not to be afraid of these issues, we can then sit down and look at them, and then we can actually start to debate them. And at the end of the day, well, we'll probably come out with a hybrid. You know, they say that a camel was a racehorse that was designed by a committee. And that'll probably be what we end up with, but it'll be better than what we have now. So I encourage you to keep going, to keep the issues coming forward, and to keep the pressure on us. So thank you very much.